And a lot of people, I'm finding the things we say, they don't want to journal because they don't feel safe. And so a lot of times when our inner child doesn't feel safe, we don't feel safe. So these are
Okay.
ways you can journal and then burn it. Journal and rip it
Yeah.
up. Journal and release these emotions and these feelings and these things that are locked inside of you. Release all the thoughts and emotions.
You're tuning into the Journey to Your Best Self podcast, where we explore the past holistic well-being, personal growth, and living a fulfilling life. Each episode, we bring you insightful conversations, practical tools, and inspiring stories to help you integrate your mind, body, and spirit on your journey to becoming your best self. Let's dive in and embark on this journey together. All right, welcome back to Journey to Your Best Self podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian O'Neill, joined by my wonderful co-host, Tara O'Neill, clinical hypnotherapist, life coach, and yoga instructor. Together, we're here to guide you on your path to a more balanced and fulfilling life. Today on the podcast, we are blessed and very excited to learn from and hear from Alicia Farricielli, a certified life coach and inner child coach. Really exciting stuff and stuff that I know Tara gets really into and we're very curious about. She has over 20 years of experience in marketing, public relations, entrepreneurship. She now specializes in intuitive healing and personal empowerment, something that a lot of our listeners are going to get a lot from today. She's overcome clients and their limited beliefs. It helps them to embrace change and unlock their true potential. So a lot of that vibes with what we do here at Your Oneself. Through her own journey of overcoming adversity, which we'd like to get into, Alicia has developed a deep empathy and insight. She's guided individuals to financial freedom from anxiety, insecurity, anxiety, and burnout. And she's also the host of the Intuitive Revolution podcast, which you should definitely check out. Will be included in the show notes. So without further ado, welcome aboard, Alicia.
So much. Thanks for having me on here. I'm really excited about our conversation.
Thank you. So thanks a lot. So, so much here, and you have a lot of expertise and a lot of fields that you come in and out of. But I think where it all starts is the inner child healing, right? So
Yes.
Can you, for those who maybe are uninitiated or maybe in a psychology class or, a sociology class or, somewhere in high school, college, they've heard of the inner child or something that they read. Can you talk about why it's such an important focus for you and why kind of all things lead back to the inner child?
Absolutely. So the inner child, we've heard about, it's a term that's phrased and it has a lot of different meanings. To me, I take the inner child on a more spiritual level than I would like a clinical or therapy level. So the inner child is like your portion of you that is I say the 3, 4, 5-year-old self. You can go even further down from that, but most people start to remember at 3, 4, 5. And it's that part of you that is the childlike spirit in you that can either be just diminished because of society or parents, or not even parents, like teachers or anyone else is telling you, kind of put limitations on you. But it can also be that portion of you that's just free, the creative portion of you, the energetic, the fun, the joyful portion of you. That's your inner child. And so our inner child's always with us. So some people think, oh, I've healed my inner child, I don't have to worry about it anymore. No, you can actually tap into your inner child and use it to play and to have fun. And so a lot of people find they have certain issues going on, especially frustrations. They can't really why they're doing the same patterns over and over again. A lot of times I tell them, like, let's look into your inner child and see what happened, like what caused you to start to do this. And I would say probably 99% of the time, it has to do with something that was told to them when they were in such a vulnerable state of mind as a child. They didn't feel safe. They didn't feel secure. It could be as simple as a teacher saying, you should have did better, or your parents saying you should have did better on this test. So now you feel like you don't feel good enough. And so from then on, you're like, because your brain's just not functioning the same way as like an adult brain. As an adult, be like, well, why do you not feel good enough? You're like, oh, you take everything literally. So you're like, I don't feel good enough. I'm not good enough. So I need to make sure I do better next time. And so as parents, teachers, influencers, we don't mean the bad things. We're doing everything we can to help them. But sometimes things aren't said in a manner that a child really understands. And so we take this throughout our entire or into adulthood, and it stays in our subconscious. And things we don't even realize. We have people who are, they're like, why am I always broke all the time? That was me. I'm like, why am I on this hamster wheel? Why do I have to keep working and hustling? Because I'm trying to prove myself. I don't know why. Who do I have to prove to? I don't understand why. Well, it probably comes down to something in childhood that you either don't remember or you possibly you can. Yeah. So that's, to me, that's how I work with my clients. And again, I do it on a spiritual level where we're doing like breath work and meditation, and we're doing energy work behind that to release some of these energetic things. And we're talking through some things, not like top therapy, but more of a coaching aspect of it. So we're getting a little bit deeper into it than, your typical therapy would drive you to, which is, I'm not like at all opposed to that. I'm just saying, it's just kind of
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's so much wonderful stuff here to unpack, because I love the subconscious and especially the inner child, because I do think it's often misunderstood and there's so many layers to it. I love that you said like the inner child doesn't go away. Can you speak to that? It's like saying, oh, well, I've already healed that, like it's within you. And also, how can we develop a relationship with our inner child if our inner child is maybe not even ready to come out? Like, where do you even start with that?
Yeah. So your inner child, like you said, is always with you. And we don't want to dismiss that inner child, because when we start dismissing the inner child, it starts to act up. That's why we get angry, and we get, first, not all the time, but we get angry at first, or we get all these emotions going on. It's our inner child's acting up. Mine was acting up this morning. It was like, something set it off, and it was like, and I literally sat in meditation for like 20 minutes, calming her down. And so I think my inner child is healed to a certain point, but it still has more. It's kind of like we have more healing to do. Things come in, certain things trigger us, and then we have a whole new layer of things like to unpack. The second part of your question, how can we get in touch with that inner child, is don't be scared of it. It's like, imagine yourself as you were 2 to 3, 4 years old, 5 years old, and just if you have pictures, look at that picture and look at the expression. Notice the time when that child felt the most safe. Now, I'm going to I always preface this, if you had any type of like big traumas, any type of abuse situation going on when you're a child, you definitely want to get some licensed help for that. Deal with that before you start getting into the smaller trauma at work that we're talking about. So I always want to say that preference, like, listeners, please do that.
Absolutely.
But it's a part of us, and we don't want to ignore it, because again, if we ignore it, it starts acting out. But we can become friends with it, and we can reparent that. So I went back and literally reparented my inner child again today. I was like, I don't know why are you feeling this like uncertainty and like scarcity? Because there's so much scarcity energetically stuff going on. I'm sure everybody is feeling it. That as much as you try to protect yourself from it, you're still getting some of it. So trying to protect that little child inside of me this morning, I was like, it's okay. Like, where did this stem from? And I had to go back down some of the same paths that I went before and be like, this is why this happened. This is okay. And now I'm going to sit. And I literally sat in meditation and held that little inner child and calmed her down. Like, visualized her. Yeah.
Was there a pivotal moment for you where you had a moment of clarity, or was it gradual, or did you always kind of know there was something back years ago that had happened? When did you kind of understand that the prominence of the inner child in kind of healing people and helping to guide them?
Go back from my background. I grew up in a super conservative religious background. I had a lot of spiritual trauma, some emotional trauma. I don't have a relationship with my father anymore. And I'm healed from that. I'm healing from that. I'll put it that way. And so I have a lot of that I tied back in. I was like, and I obviously blame that, but I didn't really understand that it was still the little girl inside of me that needed that love and support, and needed that attention, and needed that confirmation of unconditional love. I went through lots and lots and lots of healing, lots and lots of, 20 years of therapy, and never got to the point. And so I heard this term a couple of years ago, inner child. I was like, what is that?
Mm.
And so I started doing some journaling around that. And I was like, this is like the key to what I'm missing. And then this is the key to what my clients are like talking about or like missing. We're like trying to figure out why are they doing these certain things they know they're not supposed to be doing, or they know that's resulting in something that they don't want it to result in.
Sure.
So that's how that's kind of got started. So I kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. And then I was like, well, I need to start to love this little girl. Like I can reparent this. And that was like just an aha moment. I'm like, I didn't get the parenting that I desired at the time. I'm not saying my parents didn't do the best that they did. They did the best they could with the resources they have. As parents, is what we typically do. However, I needed more attention. I needed more reassurance. I needed to be able to state my voice and speak out when my opinions and the way that I thoughts and feelings, and I didn't have that. I didn't feel that safety. But now I'm like, I can give myself and that little child that safety. That was so freeing. And it's just an amazing thing when you can go back and you can rewrite that entire story. It's like, I'm not, and I release myself from that victimhood of my childhood and the things that I thought was unfair for, I'm 44, like for 40 years of my life. Like, this is so unfair. And I'm like, you know what? This is a time I have to stop now and start to heal this. I can't blame my parents anymore.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're done
Excellent.
parenting me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I'm
You Yeah, no, for sure. And then it's only hurting yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
and that burden gets, as the years go by, definitely builds and builds. You mentioned journaling being an important part of communicating with that little girl and kind of expressing yourself and discovering some things that were hidden away prior to that. Is that something that you recommend people do as they start on this journey to helping themselves?
And a lot of people, I'm finding the things we say, they don't want to journal because they don't feel safe. And so a lot of times when our inner child doesn't feel safe, we don't feel safe. So these are ways you can journal and then burn it. Journal and rip it up. Journal and because some people, they don't journal out because they're afraid somebody else will read it. Or they're afraid somebody else will. So I just want to throw that out there that there are ways you can. There are online things, or you can go on a Google Doc, type it all out, and then just delete it. Make it disappear. So that's the biggest thing people, I think, having against journaling. Yes, journaling definitely needs to happen. I'm a big proponent of that because you have to release these emotions and these feelings and these things that are locked inside of you one way. You can do it through like just talking, picking up a video and talking, getting it out, but you need to release all the thoughts and emotions. People journal, they're like, I have nothing to talk about. It doesn't matter. Start journaling. I have nothing to say. Why do I have nothing to say? Because you're going to find something that's going to subconsciously come out and you're going to be just wowed. Like, wow, I really do have something to say.
That's a great strategy because I'm laughing not at to trivialize it, but I'm thinking of my son stealing his older sister's diary or something and trying to read it. But it's a shame that the truth, people are afraid to write down a truth for others to judge it. But I think the journal and burn strategy is a great one for people to overcome that trepidation that they may have, about writing something down. So that's excellent. Tara, you were going to say?
Yeah, I was going to also say like that it doesn't have to make sense because maybe that 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old didn't have the words, didn't have the verbiage to express the feelings, didn't have that part of their brain online yet. We've been talking a lot about the energetics of getting it out of your energy field, right? And so that's, we're trying to like say this in a lot of different ways, but basically we have to release it, right? We have to transmute it. And so this journaling, so can they also scribble and draw and do like just kind of get it out however it might, if you're I used to voice note myself and then delete it, right? And I would just be like, and this is so stupid, like it would be something trivial, but that was my inner child not knowing how to articulate like I'm not feeling seen or heard or safe.
Yeah, you could treat your journal like it's your best friend. What am I going to talk to my best friend today? What's going on? What are my true feelings? Like your best friend that you can convey anything to. If you don't have one of those, go get you one, but use your journal as one. Yeah. Just write it down. I mean, drawing, if you can't thing to come, just start doodling. You'll start noticing patterns in your doodles. And that's another way to bring out the inner joy of your inner child. Again, we got to heal our inner child, but we have to make them happy. I mean, think of like a 3-year-old. You want to keep it happy and playful and fun. Like they want to be creative. They're keep the curiosity going. How do you do that? Through creative play. So, or through activities and things that you do. Think about when you're a child. What did you enjoy doing? I mean, I
Right.
loved playing with my little dolls at doll houses and stuff, and I loved writing and coloring. So I have a coloring book
Yeah.
I'll color with. I'm very like, I'll, jump rope. If you want to jump rope or whatever you did as a child, what you love to do, go do that. You can do it again in a closet or whatever. I'll dance around when I'm having a bad day. Like an inner child needs some excitement. I'll turn some music on and I'll close the door so my husband doesn't see me. And I'll dance around and see whatever, have just a great time by myself and shake that energy. Like you said, shaking some of that energy off. There's so many things.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So for those of us, just despite the reassurances that anyone can do it from you guys, for those that may not be writers, or that's not their forte or their way of communicating necessarily, and for those maybe that want to go beyond, you had mentioned, I don't know if this is a pathway, but you had mentioned meditation, how it's an important part of your journey. Is that, also kind of a conduit to connect to these kind of hidden layers of ourselves? Or can you speak to the importance of meditation in this whole process?
Yeah. So we look at where there's such an Eastern and Western meditation view. So, and the Western is our guided meditations are more for the benefits of the meditation. Eastern philosophy is more spiritual level. I go into more of the Eastern philosophy portion of it when I need that portion, but there's also the Western, which is really good for your inner child work. So there's tons of meditations. You could go through guided meditations, Spotify, YouTube. I probably have some on my website, or if not, I need to upload those. All these different places you can find these guided meditations. You can start with 5 to 10 minutes, and it's going to walk you through the steps of connecting to that inner child. When you get a little more advanced in meditation, you can start to put some music on and go into that meditative state and to start questioning. And I call in on a very spiritual level, call in the angels and guides and to come in and to speak through me, to me. Anyone can, and people say I can't do that. You can do that when you open your third eye and you learn, you're determined to have that connection. When you open up that connection, it will come in. But until then, start with the guided meditations for that.
Okay.
Focus on your breath. Your breath says a lot. It's a breath is our life. If you don't have breath, then we're not living. So focusing on your breath through meditations too.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah.
Can you speak to, so with the guided meditations, those are, like you're saying, they're really good for the inner child, because I do find sometimes with me and my clients, the inner child may want to run away if it's just you at first, right? So if you have that guide, or like you, for example, if someone were to come and work with you, you would be able to make it so she wouldn't maybe run away, right? So to have that third party is really beneficial. So to add to that, like, can you speak to the reparenting? How, do we reparent? Do we create a fictional parent figure? Do we use our original caregiver? Or can you speak to how somebody would go about the reparenting, or define that even in and of itself?
Yeah. So reparenting is basically, you're going to people have heard rewriting your story. And so when things happen to us, people, I can't rewrite my story. It was bad. So first you have to get over the victim, and you're decided, and the forgiveness portion of it. You have to forgive and you have to release. And by forgiving, I don't mean forgetting. I mean, you're not letting that dictate your life anymore. So once you do that, you can start to reparent yourself. Reparenting can be, I reparent myself as I'm the parent, because that works for me.
Okay. Great.
But if you want to act like reimagine something in your mind, again, we're creating our own realities, and there's so much science behind that. If you want to imagine that's your parent, or if it's a whole new figure, if it's like Oprah or somebody, like partner, somebody that you want to be your parent, you can imagine that being your parent is speaking to that child. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever is going to make you feel safe and comfortable and secure and held. Because that's the whole point of it, is to feel unconditionally loved and safe and supported.
Right. Thank you. So, that's highlight that. Like, it's not about the technicalities, because we do think in our mind, it's like, well, I have to do this right, and I got to do this right. Did I do this right? And it's like, the point is the feeling and the sensation that comes behind that safety and that love. Yeah. So thank you for highlighting that.
Absolutely. So after many conversations and the kind of profound insights you provide, you might be the parent to a lot of listeners.
Yes,
God,
yes.
So
Can
you might
we
have a lot
use
of
it?
children out
Yeah.
there
Anyways.
that you don't even know about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you say to people that, especially on my side of things, people that are kind of a little bit outside of this world and a little hesitant to the potential for kind of the change and the therapeutic nature of things, and how that's just, I had a tough break growing up, or it made me stronger, and I'm good now, and there's nothing I can do about it anyway because the past is in the past, and I'm not going to be able to journal or meditate or figure this out. Like, there are limiting beliefs that people have, right? And they have to be open to before this process can even start. So, what are some of the strategies you can suggest to kind of get people to overcome those initial limiting beliefs that don't even get them to the table?
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a lot of people are to the point, and it's so sad because our society has, especially, I'm going to put men out there, women too.
Yeah,
You could say it,
Yeah,
Yeah,
two against
definitely.
one. I have to take it.
yeah. No, it is. I'm not bashing. I'm actually have a lot of
Sure.
compassion for
Just-
men because they
Sure.
have to be this masculine, supportive, the
Mm,
strong people, and then women have to be that too in a certain way. But we're allowed to express our emotions. Men have
Yes.
not been
Okay.
able to, and so I just want to, in a safe space, wherever a man feels safe, express those emotions, because you hold
mm,
all that emotions in, and
mm,
it's not healthy. It creates rage and fear and all kinds of things that you may not even know that's going on. So I always say,
mm,
people, get really honest with yourself. I mean, sit down with yourself on a weekly basis and honest with yourself. How happy am I on a level 1 to 10 in this area of my life? And like the wheel of life has
mm.
always been so helpful for me. It's like you can, people, you don't have to choose. You can choose 8 different areas. Whatever areas you like, choose those.
Mm.
How happy are your finances? I don't know very many people that are 100% happy with their finances. Very few
Mm.
people. They may, even wealthy
Sure.
people, they always want more. They always want more or
Sure.
something. How
Mhm.
happy you are with your love, your marriage, your relationships, your friendships, all whatever category. There's going to be a category you're not happy with, and start really figuring out why. And are you blocking this happiness by being stubborn and resistant to something that could actually help you change? So is your happiness worth having a 1 out of 10? People say you can be a 9.5, 10, and a 10. You can strive to reach that. But how are you going to get there? Well, goes with the inner work. You have to do some inner work. And it's funny, I started off my coaching business was with entrepreneurs or people who want to start business. And they were like, we need marketing plans. We need all this, and we need this and this and this. I'm like, cool. They didn't believe they could do it. I'm like, why are we doing this? So it's like the mindset work has to start. You have to have a mind, body, spirit. All of that has to tie together and be flowing together, because if one's out, the rest of them are out. That's the
clip it. All right, edit that and clip it and post it everywhere. Love it. Yeah, that was that's amazing. And I have to mention before you continue, I love the idea of you said circle of life, and I think what you were reflecting
life?
on and using as an illustration was like dividing it up into different, partitioning your whole life up,
Yeah.
dividing into different sections, so it's not so overwhelming, right? Oh, I'm struggling right now, how can I change my whole life? It's just, that's like too large of a step. But then if you, like you said, break it down: family, personal relationships, finances, work, kids, partner, then you can tackle the 1 or 2 or 3 or more things that, and then go from there. That's really important, because people do get overwhelmed when they're first starting out. I mean, that's one of the reasons they don't even want to start out.
Yeah. It is overwhelming. It's super overwhelming. If you have to, we're going to go from 1 to 100 the next day.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take those
Right.
baby steps. It's like our emotional health, wellness. It's like you can't go from misery to joy in like the same day. You have to take like automatic. You can go from misery to joy in that if you take the little baby steps up, and like what's the next best emotion? What's the next best emotion? What's the next best emotion? And so striving for those baby steps, because it's so overwhelming. And the thing is, when you start off, it's like you need to do one thing for your mind, one thing for your body, and one thing for your spirit. You can divide this in 15 minutes a day. You can take a 10-minute walk for your body, meditate 5 minutes for your mind. That's 15 minutes, that goes 20 minutes. And then your spirit is in meditation too. And then
Okay.
read something, spend 5 minutes reading something that is going to boost you mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Turn
Okay.
off the news, turn off all the media, and put on something that is super, super pumping up, that's going to get you motivated to continue that process.
Right.
Awesome.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, this is amazing. This is right up our alley, mind, body, and spirit, because you need all of the pillars. Can we knock down some of the overwhelm by looking at our past and saying, like, pointing out something good that we've done? How would you teach your clients to recognize, like, you've done stuff, right? Like, because a lot of times people that come to you, they're probably pretty accomplished, they're probably pretty determined, and they've done things, but when they come to you, it's like, I have nothing. I'm a 0 on a scale from 1 to 10 in love and finance, and it's like, that's not really true. So the story we tell ourselves is there's a disconnect and a mismatch. So how do you get somebody that is coming to you with maybe more catastrophic thinking to get them to point out their good qualities, or that they have accomplished a lot?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to the way we feel about ourselves. It's kind of like, how do you want to feel about yourself? And so you look at, they say my finances or my fitness is 2. Okay, what are you doing? What are we going to do to make that a 3? When you hit that 3, how are you going to feel? How does it feel to be? What's the feeling at a 10? So we base everything on our accomplishments, but I mean, we want money, we want success, we want this and this and this, and but the thing is, we want to feel good. It's all a feeling. We want to feel secure and safe. It goes back to that safety. What's going to take you to feel safe?
Yeah.
And it goes all the way back to that. So it doesn't matter. People like, I want money for freedom. What's freedom mean to you?
Right.
Safety. And security.
It comes back to safety and security.
And it's all, let's go, you can get back to the root chakra. I mean, it goes back to that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And that's such a profound, like, realization, I think, that people have, and can take a little of the pressure off of the money when you think of the safety and the security and the money, right? Because most people have shelter and food, right? So we can start at, like, the basics, like you said, the root chakra. Like, we can be reminded that we have our basic needs met. So yeah, thank you for pointing that, the safety and the security. Sorry to cut you off. I just get excited.
Okay, yeah. And then I tell them to go back with gratitude, because gratitude has changed so many lives. You can't be in a state of irritation if you're grateful for what you already have. You can't be in a state of scarcity if you're grateful for what you already have. So finding that, what are you grateful for? What do you have? You have food and you have shelter. That's a huge thing, because there are so many people out there in the world that don't have that. You have that. So if you want to put yourself in competition, you're doing pretty freaking good if you have a roof over your head and some clothes and food every single day. If you have 3 meals a day, you're in a really good spot. So you can start and build on that, because you have your basic needs met.
Yes.
Your love life.
Appreciative, especially when we're talking about clients here in the United States, right? So there is like a woe is me that's more pervasive now, but I think that's because they've been told, you're supposed to be a victim and supposed to feel so bad, and the things that we have aren't really celebrated, right? There's never anything positive that we're told when we're scrolling online, or those things you actually really have to look for. So can you talk about how, those external forces in our society make things seem like worse than they really are, and how part B would be how we can prevent those, or put up a barrier around us to kind of shield us?
Yeah. So consider the concept, what is control? Okay. And everyone wants control. When you're not in control of your own lives, you seek to control other people. The people who are the most in control of their lives, you don't hear about them. You don't see them. They're, you do hear about them, see them, but they're not trying to control their people.
Yeah.
They're not trying to. They're out there living their own lives. There's nobody that feels out of control, that feels in control, that's going to try to control their people. They're going to track them and bring them to them to follow as a leader, as a positive leader. So you have the media, and I actually got really had some thoughts about this the other day. I thought, we blame the media, but the media is also trained because it gets reactions to the negative. And I've worked in media past and advertising and stuff, and I know how this works. You want to go in the drama, but we've also been conditioned from the drama from, our government for control. We've been conditioned from pharmaceuticals, and I can go down the rabbit hole. control. We've been conditioned from Hollywood media, which all that stuff is almost a fun thing, but it's it's to condition you. And then the media just expands on it. So I used to blame the media. I don't blame the media because everybody knows the media is, most people know the media is there for a story. If it's not a story and people don't get a pension, they're not going to. That's their job. Or the job of, we accept the job of the government to provide for us and to keep us safe. And that's safety again. But now we can't because we don't trust that. The pharmaceutical companies were supposed to do that too. They're supposed to keep us safe and healed and healthy, right? They don't do that anymore. Hollywood.
So where are we getting our safety? Right. So where are we getting our safety?
In yourself.
Welcome, Alicia.
You have to get your safety in yourself. You have to heal yourself, and you have to take all that external stuff and just know that I'd say 99% of it is not even the real thing. Think about when we anticipate we're living in fear. Does most of our fears happen? No. They don't happen. It's all made up in our mind. And they're feeding upon that made up realities in our mind because that controls. And so an way to take, you can either let someone else control you or you can take the control and control back yourself. You can be a victim to all of that. And I'm not bashing all the companies and all this stuff. There are good things that happen with pharmaceuticals and the government and all. They do some great work too. But I'm just saying when you let that lead your way and that's your entire life and you let that dictate your happiness, there's something wrong with that. Right. Because look at countries where people are completely controlled. Completely. They have no rights. They have nothing. They have no access to clean water. And you find some of the happiest people there. They're happy over the fact that there's a piece of bread.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can't take external factors to dictate your happiness. And that's where society has gotten. It's like we've gotten so far
and I think it's well said, and I think it's also kind of a matter of knowing, focusing on things that are like you so far removed from where you are. It's just like you throw on the 10, 11 o'clock news, you hear about some crime or some assault that happened 50 miles away from you, right? For instance, you hear about something that happened in Miami or Jacksonville, and you're like, well, I'm leaving Florida. This is crazy, right? And it's like, is that really affecting you directly or personally? Or, you're watching a commercial and you see, there's a 0.0005% chance that the side effect could be explosive diarrhea for the rest of your life or something. It's like, oh my God, I can never take that multivitamin. It's we have so much information that maybe too much, right? And we have to look inward, like you said, and it's nice. That's a part of the forgiveness. Like I too am on that fence of like blaming the media, but then at the end of the day, it is us that's kind of feeding that beast, right? And that is kind of their job, to get clicks and viewers. So it's kind of like they're doing the best thing that they know how to do and can, because that's the way we've told them we want it to be.
Yeah, we love drama. I mean, we all love
absolutely.
Drama. What is people want to watch? A TV shows that it's boring. There's no drama. And nobody's going to watch it. We have to have drama because we're so addicted to it. Our nervous systems are so addicted to being in fight, flight, freeze mode. And and I don't say that I think we were born in this way. I think ancestrally our genes and all this stuff, this is passed on years and years and years. It's not just a automatic thing. So we're addicted to it. It's in our nature now. And so we have to fight that, and we have to come out, not like fight for this, but we have to block that out and protect ourselves. I haven't watched the news in probably 10, 20 years. The only time I watch it is that there's a hurricane on our way. And I watch the weather. I look at the weather app on my phone.
Right.
If something starts scrolling through Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and I don't like it, and I just bring fear, I'll be quick. Block it out and to stop. I've actually all the election stuff coming up. I literally just blocked. I think I not blocked, but I unfollowed probably 300 people because I just it doesn't matter what particular party. It's like, it's too much. It's like everybody's entitled to their opinions, but you're not going to bring, if it brings fear inside of me, it is not truth and light. That's the way that I look at it.
Absolutely. And can you speak to that like visceral feeling that people can get in touch with? Because we are very disconnected in our mind and body,
Yeah.
right? And so, this chronic fight or flight that many of us are in, it's interesting because like you said, we're kind of addicted to it. So kind of two-part question. One is like the importance of feeling the body.
Yeah.
And also like if you're in this chronic fight or flight and as you're healing your inner child, you don't actually feel as drawn to those crime dramas or the news or like the fear mongering, right? So you're noticing like a different frequency. Can you speak to that and how like as your clients heal, they notice these shifts kind of drop away, like there's certain things in their life just drop away, or and actually it's not so hard. They don't have to make this hard decision. Well, I'm never gonna do this again. It just kind of can unfold.
Yeah, it's really cool. So the less that when we start pushing, the more healing we do, the more we don't want to go back to that person. You don't want to be the person you were before. You don't want to feel those feelings anymore because you know there's a difference. You know that you can feel happiness and joy. We are born and innate to feel happiness, joy, and love. We are not. I don't think we're born to feel the fear. I don't think that's who we are naturally. I think everyone is is of love. Now, whether they take different paths or different things influences different story. So yes.
So I guess like the feeling, like do you notice that as people heal, they can live in their body more? Then as they heal, they also don't find that they want to be watching the news or these murder mysteries as much. Not that a lot of the stuff that excites the adrenaline and the cortisol, that addiction that we have to those chronic fight or flight hormones. Do you find that like as it heals, like it naturally shifts people out of that? And like to your point, they don't want to feel it anymore. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. And then, like I said, the more you go, the more you heal, the more you're going to seek out things that make you feel good on a different level.
Yes.
You're going to want to start eating healthier. It's funny. I see clients like saying, well, I just quit drinking. I'm like, I didn't even tell them to do that. I'm like, how do you feel? I feel amazing. I feel like I can't eat these things anymore because my body it'll start rejecting it. Your body will start rejecting these things and it will tell you you cannot have this stuff anymore. I'm not talking about necessarily alcohol or food or stuff, but it'll start rejecting the drama. You will find people that will drop off from you. And can be a very sad situation at the time. And I always tell my clients, I'm like, when you start this process, people that are closest with now may not be the same people that you may not be the same people to you at the end of this journey or when we're finished. Through this journey that we're working together, and that's okay because you're going to find something better. You have to eliminate the stuff. Literally have to eliminate all the bad stuff in order to make room for the good stuff to come in. And if you don't do that, you're battling back and forth, and you're not going to heal. You're actually creating more trauma inside of you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this challenging work. I love that you speak to the joy that naturally happens. And I do want to send that message to people. It's like, it is worth it, right? And so it is not a linear journey per se, where it's like, oh, it's all going to be rainbows and butterflies, but it's also not going to be like every day, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this deep inner healing work, right? So it can be, a journey can be fun and challenging.
Yeah. And the more that you get into, I'm finding the more you get into the healing process, the more you want to heal more. You're like, it's almost like that becomes your new drug. And people can, you can actually take it a little overboard.
Sure.
People can be like, I'm only healing. And that's kind of where cancel culture, I think, came in. It's like something can come a little overboard.
Of course.
However, when you start doing that, it's almost like it's just an euphoria that you're like, okay, it's a confidence you build in yourself. More like I got through this. What's next? Right. And I've got to this point personally myself, it's like, oh, I got another thing coming. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Where am I going to be on the other side of it? Instead of like worrying about the journey and the pain that's going to I'm going to have to go through to get there. It's like, oh, well.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to move a little away from the individual and personal side and the the building self-worth, but though they're all connected. You had mentioned something about maybe scarcity mindset or limitation of beliefs, or being kind of stuck for those that are maybe entrepreneurs or starting a small business. You said you had some experience there in the past. What can people do to, first of all, how can they identify that that's the challenge, and it's not just they're bad at sales or they're bad at marketing, that they do have, that it's
Right.
actually your limiting beliefs that are stopping you. And then what's some advice that anyone can kind of start out to kind of begin to overcome those, to be more successful as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, as someone that's got a startup that they're interested in developing and building?
Yeah, great question. So, you're in scarcity mindset by the way that you're feeling. So, imagine if you got that dream client.
Mm.
What's the initial feeling you're feeling? Oh my gosh, I've got to keep this client. That's scarcity.
Oh.
If the initial feeling is, I can't believe that they signed up. Well, I can't believe they signed up with me. That's
Right.
scarcity. That's not
Mm.
lack of self-worth there. If the initial
Mhm.
feeling is, wow, I'm so ready. Thank you for bringing this on. I'm ready to get going. We're going to do such great things. And I can't wait for the next one to show up, because I know, and you feel like the next person showing up, or you feel what's going to happen. That's not scarcity.
Mhm.
That's abundance. In order to get there, you have to focus on, how am I going to create that feeling? And it's almost a feeling of
Okay.
almost faking it till you make it in a way. But really sitting down, and even meditation's great for this. Meditation, just filling in, what does it feel like to have $10 million deposited into my account? Oh, that doesn't feel good. That feels unrealistic. What about $1 million? Okay, what about $1,000 just automatically got deposited in my account? How does that feel?
Mm.
That feels pretty freaking good, and amazed. Can you hold on to that $1,000? Absolutely. Okay, cool. Let's go for the $2,000. And you bump yourself up and up and up until you actually feel like you're worth that. And eventually you'll come to a point of like, I'm worth infinity amount.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's all in
Yeah.
that feeling and creating that feeling. And it's, the law of attraction and like bringing that in. You can all day be going, I'm a millionaire, I'm a billionaire, but if you don't feel it, you're still
Yeah.
scarcity, and you're still,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, that's a
Love
great
it.
way to explain it, because sometimes it's difficult for our listeners, or for me, or for anyone to grasp that. But that's the importance of it. Affirmations are great, but you really have to know, like, is it believable to the subconscious, to your
Yeah.
subconscious mind?
Mhm.
And that's such a great way. So scarcity and lack, would you say that those are very common for your clients? Because I mean, still to this day, even though, like Brian was saying, we have so many things, we feel this. Is that generational or due to our upbringing?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it also goes in with the media. We have everything. Well, it goes into what you're putting into your brain. So we can say it's generational, but we have to come to a certain point to where we have to take ownership of it. So we can blame everybody. But if you're putting those things into your mind every single day, again, if you're watching news or you're reading and you're listening, if you're hanging out at happy hour with people who are griping, complaining about their wives or their husbands, or they're griping, complaining about, I'm never making enough, or really look at your inner circle, who you're surrounding yourself with. Because if you're having these conversations, you're doing nothing but adding to that energy, and you're never going to get anything back in return that you want.
Right.
So
the company that you keep is
so
similar
important.
energetics. Yeah.
It's so important. The conversations you have, picking up the phone and complaining is different. I mean, pick up the phone. We have to vent and we have to get stuff off. But if you're constantly picking up and complaining to someone over and over and over again about your life, you're doing nothing to your life, but just causing that same thing to continue to happen. So we have to stop that ownership. And so we can blame generations. Yes, our generation, our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, where that was their mindset. They also lived through, the Great Depression. They lived through these really, really traumatic times. I think every generation has some traumatic times. Our generation has traumatic times with COVID and all this stuff going on. But they lived through all of that. And so we can stop that. We have to stop that. I mean, looking at our lives, like all of us have gone through, 2020, COVID, that whole era. We went through the scarcity portion of it. Are we going to continue to pass that on? Generations don't have to go through that.
Yeah, you have to break the cycle, right?
Yeah.
So, and actually, that's I mean, that can be challenging. When you have to break away from the group and disassociate yourself because of the toxic kind of environment that's been built, and you have to build up that inner strength, right, to be independent and make the right choices. Even at work, by the water cooler, as,
Mhm.
they might say, or, in the break room or something, it's usually going to be kind of negative vibes when you're meeting up. Oh man, can you believe what Mr. Johnson's having us come in on Saturday morning to get this done by the end of the month, and this new guy's making more money than I am. This is like, there's not going to be as many positives, right? Unless sometimes you bring them there, make change.
Yeah. And also going back to not blaming, because I will say to listeners that it can be, you can go through a cycle in awakening. At least I did, where it was like, I stopped blaming maybe other people. And then it was like, oh, but it's the media's fault. Oh, like, but it's, society's fault. Oh, it's generational. But like, then you go past it and you're like, oh, like, actually, like, I don't have to blame anyone. So there are steps. So I feel you can have compassion for yourself if you're there, where it's like, oh my gosh, did you realize, like, you're discovering all of these kind of like, things that are happening in reality, in the matrix, so to speak. And it's like, it's a journey. I love that you're saying the they. We had somebody say, like, we're not sure who they is, like, but maybe there is this other entity that's controlling the bad things. But even that, it's okay, because we have the power within us to heal. And I think that's the true message that I've gotten from you from this past hour, which is so beautiful and so empowering, and just really like, this is it. Like, that's amazing. And so what's next for you? Where can people find you, and how can we help spread this?
Yes. They can find me on my website. I'm going to spell this out. As you can see, I have a long last name. It's ALICIAFARRICIELLI.com. So find me on my website. I'm on pretty much all the social media platforms except for Twitter X. I should probably get
Awesome. I do have one more from my end, or two more from my end, if you have because we have something coming out on parenting, and I think it connects well with what we were just talking about, because you have a limited influence maybe of those around you that are kind of grown and that are not open to doing the inner child work. But we do have an influence of, those that we're raising. And I know that your experience, right, as a mom really had an impact on you, as it does on most parents. How can we, I have two young children as well, how can we as parents kind of nurture the inner child of our children so they don't, in the future have to do a lot of this hard work, and really create, a being that is going to be filled with more joy and love and light and compassion moving forward, to take what we know now and help them along.
Yeah, so each child is so different. And I was very young when I had my children. They're grown now, and I wish I had like if I was like new now. Look at your child, and every day just make sure they know that they're loved and they're secure and they're safe. That's what children want to do. And let them express themselves. Let them be children. We put so much pressure on children to be this certain thing that we want them to be. And a lot of times it goes back to ourselves. So I'm going to tell you, the number one thing you can do for your children is to heal your own inner child. Because if you don't do that, you're pushing the same stuff that you haven't healed from back on your children. I did the same thing. I went through, and I was, again, a young mom, but I went through the same thing. My way I was raised. I was told things, and I treated my children that way too, because I thought that's the way it did, because I pushed it down, thought, well, I turned out okay. I didn't realize all the things that were happening inside me. So really get trusting with yourself, get really deep with yourself and honest yourself, and start working on anything that comes up with your inner child. Because when you do that work, you're helping your children.
Awesome. Excellent advice.
Yeah, that's profound.
For sure. And really can be actionable. That's what I've loved about this conversation, because you've given us, so much depth, but also a lot of, tangible things and actionable things that people can use right away and get started. Before we wrap, can you let us know a little bit about, we're going to link your site and podcast in the show notes. Can you give us a little preview of what they can expect if they go to the website and, take you up on the free inner child workshop offer?
Yeah, so we go into, I call it a 101 child. So I talk about a little bit more what the inner child is for that workshop. And then there's some actionable steps, some things that you want, like a journal with you to start journaling out. I'll give you some tips to do that. So that's pretty much it. I think it's like 45-minute workshop, but I teach you what the inner child is, and then the steps to start healing the inner child. In order to do the deep.
Awesome.
Also, I wanted to ask, is there a book that you can recommend that was transformational for you? You know, it's often we have these like one or two like people or books that have really been so influential that we're like, oh, I want to share this with somebody that's maybe newer on the journey. Anything pop out for you?
The Power of Now was probably one of my favorite books, like, because it teaches you to stay in the present moment. As far as inner child work goes, there's a system that's more of a therapy way, but he has a book. Dr. Richard Swartz does IFS, Inner Family Systems, works a lot with inner child on a different level. So if you're like, oh, I'm working on my inner child and we get a little bit deeper on it, I definitely recommend getting into his stuff. That's been really life-changing for me. But The Power Now really changed my perception of
I agree,
of way to looking at life.
That's
Love
awesome.
it.
Well,
Love it.
it's really, we've really learned quite a bit, been entertained as well, and there's a lot of great stuff for our listeners, followers to get out of this and learn from and grow from and start and continue their journey. So thank you so much, Alicia. Please stay in touch. It was great meeting you, and we look forward to doing it again.
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Bye.